Welcome to Operatory Empires, the show where we talk about the business stuff the dental school doesn't teach. Today we have an awesome guest. I've been watching him for years, Dr. David Cohen. He has over 1.9 million followers on TikTok, and he's the founder of Aluna Dental. We're gonna get into some good stuff today. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, I was actually saying we could go back and start. I remember I was watching your videos when you were a D1. So when did you get into all this
Yeah.
content stuff?
So I was one of the COVID babies, the dental COVID babies. And so when we first started dental school, that's when figs kind of became really popular and they started sponsoring a lot of people. And so I was like, like there was one guy at our school, his name was Levi, that was sponsored by figs. And I was like, I have to, I really want to do this. I've always wanted to do this. I'm just gonna start posting on Instagram. So my goal was to get sponsored by Figs. That was it. If I did that, then I made it. Um, and then COVID hit, and we were all home. I mean, everybody was just having fun online because there was nothing else to do. And I started posting on TikTok, and there was a kid that reached out to me from Canada, and he was like, "I saw on your," like, he went to my Instagram and saw that I was in dental school, and he's like, "Can I ask you some advice?" And then I gave him some advice, and I was like, if I could reach someone, like if somebody just figured out that I was a dental student and I could help him out, through the internet, why not put on my scrubs and make a video for the rest of the world? I don't know. And whoever sees it, maybe it helps somebody out. And so I remember that day I put on my scrubs, I posted like 3 or 4 videos, and it was like advice for dental students. And I woke up the next morning and it was at like 10,000 views. And I was like, okay, I can drop out of dental school now. I made it. And the next day, I kept going, and the next video was at 250,000, and then 5 million, and everything kind of changed from there. So it just kind of turned into something that I never really expected. Got to work with a lot of really cool brands and transition from, you know, giving advice to dental students to making funny videos to uh, videos for patients and tips and tricks and just kind of doing whatever I felt I enjoyed at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. How was it? Because you were like one of the first people, I think, to be online and in school. And now I feel like some schools are having discourse about if they're allowing filming at dental schools or not like that. Was it
Yeah.
weird or did your school like it?
So a lot of my filming was from home, and when we came back, because like I said, it was during COVID, so there was a good like couple of months where we were home, and that's when most of everything happened. And I even remember, like we were on Zoom, like having lecture, and I would just like kind of leave the Zoom for a sec, go in my scrubs and film a video while we were in class sometimes. But when we went back to school, I got a ton of backlash from the school themselves. They never reached out to me personally, but they would send out like blast emails and tell people like don't record on campus. I don't know if they were worried that like maybe they didn't want people to like see people without masks or something and for it to get out, but yeah, they weren't really happy about it, which was annoying. So I never, if people look back at my videos, I didn't film much at school ever. But I think now schools are a little bit more open to it because they know like that's what everybody needs to do these days.
Yeah, that's how a lot of people are finding the dental schools. So when you shifting into getting into practice after dental school, did you work for someone else? And then you did a startup, right?
So I'll get into all that also. So I'll start from the beginning. When I finished school, I went to go work. My goal was to go to private practice because I really just like I love doing just high quality dentistry, having the time to sit with patients and um, just really working on like the craft of dentistry itself. That was always really appealing to me. But realistically, it's really hard to do that as a new grad unless you kind of built up that connection before or you know someone personally, but I didn't. And so I just kind of found a job on Indeed. It was in where are you from again?
I'm from Maryland.
Maryland. Okay. So in LA, there's Los Angeles and there's like cities around. So this was like 45 minutes from LA, kind of like on the outskirts, a pretty busy city. I was only working 3 days a week. That was the only job that I could find at the time. And I went from dental school where you're seeing like 2 patients a day to seeing like 25 on my first day. And I saw the schedule the first day and I freaked out, but somehow everything worked out and it always will. And so I was there for a couple of months. My last month, the owner just was not paying me. So he was giving me like checks that would bounce, and just playing a lot of games with the money. And I was like, you know what? I can't come here anymore. and I slowly started to look for another place. I worked at I wouldn't call it a DSO because it wasn't one of those like big name practices, but they had like 8 or 9 locations, so kind of like a mini corporate office. I learned a lot there, just understanding how an office should run, the systems, um, how the employees were treated, and they treated me really, really well. But again, it just wasn't the type of dentistry that I wanted to do or saw myself doing for a long time. And I was just getting really, really burnt out. After that, I transitioned to some private practices a lot closer to home, which was really, really great. Some of those doctors became really good mentors of mine and just kind of let me practice the way that I want to, and also taught me a lot more things like implant dentistry, and they taught me a lot about patient communication and all of the really important skills that I needed. But even with them, I always knew that I wanted something more, and so I didn't really give myself a timeline or anything, but I kept saying like I'm pretty religious person, and I kept asking God. I was like, look, I want a small office in this part of town. I want it to have parking. I want to be able to do this, 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 and this. And I just randomly came across it on the internet. And when you get something like that and you get that opportunity, I didn't want to miss it. And that's when I found Luna Dental. And 6 months ago, I took over the practice. It's not a startup, but it's what a lot of people call a fast start. So the patient pool was really, really small and they weren't open many days, maybe like 1 day a week, sometimes only a couple times a month. And like a healthier practice would have, let's say, of this size, maybe 1,000 active patients, 700, and they only had about 200, 150.
Oh,
So it's kind of like starting from scratch, and I really had to build up the schedule. Um, but yeah, so it's been 6 months now, and a lot of exciting growth, and learned a lot of things. But yeah, here we are.
that's awesome. How has it been practicing? Is that in LA also? How is practicing in
Yeah.
LA?
LA is extremely saturated. So every corner there's a dentist. If you go into a medical building, there's probably like 3 or 4 dentists in the building. Um, I've never practiced, farther away in like a much more rural area. I know that you definitely get to see a lot more and you get to do a lot more just because there's not so much availability and specialists everywhere. And I'm sure you make a lot more money outside of a major city. But for me, family was really important. So staying close to my family, my mental health, that kind of is above anything else. And I always said that the money's going to work out. There's a lot of competition here, but there's also a lot of opportunity and success here. So it's kind of how you look at things in life. Um, and yeah.
Yeah. How did how was it like transitioning? When did you feel ready as an associate, or do you ever feel ready to own a practice, or is it kind of like the opportunity comes up and you're like, damn, I wasn't really fully ready yet, but I got to do it.
I'm gonna sound like a little kid when I say this, but at some point you just have to send it. And maybe I'll look back on this in 10 years and say that was really, really dumb to say, or maybe not. But everybody that I've ever talked to, even my own dentist, before I bought this place, he was an associate, I think, for 5 or 6 years before he bought his own practice, or maybe even longer. And he told me and I asked him, I was like, when did you feel ready? He's like, you never feel ready, and I wish I did it sooner. And I can say that I'm sure a lot of times, especially early on in everyone's career, you have a short period where you feel like you don't know anything. Then you go into a transition where you feel like you know everything and you're ultra confident. And then you start to realize that you don't really know much either, again. And so during that time period, everyone, like a lot of people, me and a lot of my friends are like, we're maybe a year out, we're like, yeah, I'm ready to buy a practice. I'm ready to go for it. Like, I feel ready and all this stuff. And then you start to really look at it and think about it. And you're like, wait, I don't. Maybe I'm not ready financially, maybe clinically. But at the end of the day, you're never going to feel ready. I can say the way that, like, I was with patients, I felt ready, or I felt prepared, I would say clinically, but nothing's ever going to prepare you, no matter how much you pay attention to the business side of things and insurance and dealing with the staff and all that stuff as an associate. It's not the same when you have your bank account sitting in front of you and you also have patients and you have your staff and you're the person that everybody looks to make sure that it's working.
Yeah. I actually have a question here, and it kind of
Yeah.
is all those things you mentioned. So
hmm
if you had to rank these things from hardest to least hard about owning a practice, how would you rank them? I have staffing, the
hmm
actual dentistry, the back end stuff, which maybe this is too many things, but it's payroll, HR, and insurance, and
Yeah.
then marketing.
I would say that it really depends on the type of person that you are. So I can't speak for everybody else, but I would think that most people would rank the dentistry itself as probably the easiest because you don't really have to, you're kind of just, you're doing your job. But uh, um, the hardest thing for me was staffing. One, because we're a really small office, we're only three ops. I don't need a large staff, but when you don't have a large staff, you only rely on a small number of people. So if one person isn't doing their job, you really feel it. And also, if one person, decides to leave or I want to hire somebody else, that time period is very, very difficult in a transition to kind of train someone. So that's been, I think, the most difficult thing for me. The second most difficult thing has been all of the back end stuff, just because I had to kind of learn how to do all of it. So while also balancing the clinical dentistry and running the team and building it and making sure that patients are coming in and are happy and a good experience, you're also learning how to be a bookkeeper, how to manage your finances, how, where, who to call for different things. Out of nowhere, my first month in, my vacuum stopped working, and so I had to. Who do I call? I don't even have a repair person. So all of those little things are, I think, what has been the most difficult. And then I would say third, before the dentistry, that's easier for me is marketing, just because I've been doing it for so long
Yeah.
that I really understand. I understand how people think. There's still a lot for me to learn in terms of like traditional marketing, Google Ads, flyers, just being a part of the community. But there's so many things. Marketing is it's so wide and diverse, and you just have to be creative and have an open mind. And I don't think it's that difficult.
Yeah, especially I actually had a marketing guy on a couple weeks ago, and
hmm
he was saying the younger dentists, like obviously we don't have money coming out, but we have an understanding of social media and how that stuff works,
Yeah.
and you can kind of leverage that. And especially when you get to as many followers as you have, like you clearly know what works and what doesn't. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It's
So
free
for
marketing that
yeah,
a lot of the older generation isn't doing anymore. So you have a much bigger advantage. And let's say the older patients maybe aren't looking to social media, but younger patients, I mean, even me, before I go to a doctor's office, I'm going to look at their social media and seeing who they are, the type of practice they have. Like, I'd rather go to somebody that I can see rather than somebody that I've never seen before and maybe I just heard good things.
yeah. I think that's also good if you're trying to get away from things like insurance because to do that, people want to make sure they know what they're getting into. So that's pretty
100%.
cool. Um, for a startup or not startup, sorry, just for buying a practice in general, if you had student loans or if you know like your friends that had student loans going into buying a practice, how did they manage that? Was it difficult to get a loan? And is that really an issue with dentists with dental offices or not really?
I think the loan conversation is always a scary topic for people that are still in dental school. It's still a scary topic for me. I'm only 2 years out. I personally took loans. I went to USC. It's a very expensive school. So I got tons of loans on my head. It really wasn't a problem buying the practice and getting a practice loan. There, the like I'm sure at some point you'll have somebody from finance and that deals with like dental practice loans and stuff like that, or a broker or someone. It's not difficult, and it's honestly kind of scary how easily they'll kind of dish it out. But the reason is because they have like a 99% payback rate or something crazy like that. So they feel very confident that dentists will pay back the loan. My student loans, I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with those.
Yeah.
So when you find that out, you have somebody on that has something interesting to say. I'm really open to hearing ideas. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not hard to get the practice loan, and I think it's just the hard part is finding making the right decision in your practice. So finding the best fit for you. So for example, my practice might not be the best fit for a lot of other dentists because we're a really small office. We don't work on volume, and I'm gearing it to be more of like a full mouth reconstruction, comprehensive diagnosis, cosmetic, um, a lot of those things. And so you can only really do that um, if you're the main doctor there and you're diagnosing like that. So somebody that wants to just do volume and is just doing bread and butter dentistry might not be the best fit for them. But regardless, the loan is not it's not that difficult.
Yeah. And from what I've heard, even if you get like have a lot of loans, you're making more as an owner. And even if you're not making more total, you're making more per hour, like for sure, at least at first too. I had one of my classmates earlier was saying, like he was talking about buying a practice. He saw my videos and he was like, I'm not gonna be able to get one for like 30 years. But I was trying to explain, a lot of people take out loans or take out a practice loan while also having loans, and it
Yeah.
usually
Yeah,
honestly
yeah.
helps you.
It's really not an issue. I think that so like opening a practice versus not opening a practice, it really just depends on the type of person that you are. So I think the biggest thing it depends on depending on the type of dentist that you are is going to change how much money you're going to be able to make compared to being an associate. There's practice owners that make less than if they were an associate. There's some that make the same. There's some that make a lot more. So it's a really, really wide range. It really depends on how you practice, your setup, and all of that. But I think the biggest thing that you get from ownership is really just the autonomy of designing your life the way that you want. So as an owner, you can say, I only want to work 2.5 days a week, and you can still, if you learn how to run the business properly, you can still make as much money as an associate or maybe even more. So it just depends how you are and what your goals are in life. And I'm a really big believer that we create our own reality, and whatever you envision for yourself, it's possible. You just kind of have to find out how to get there.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great way to think about it. For owning a practice, for how hard has it been? Like, I feel like a lot of people don't know about this, but I've heard from other dentists the dental tax is very real. When you were getting things fixed and stuff, what were your experiences with that of people trying to charge you way more than what it should be?
You're saying getting things fixed in the office?
Just getting things fixed, like getting products that if it didn't say
Oh.
dental something, it would just be like a 10% of the price.
I think that you kind of you learn by making a lot of mistakes. That's number one. It's the same way with like trusting people and believing everything that you hear from everyone. We're very naive in the beginning because we think that everybody's trying to help us. But in the real world, everybody's looking out for themselves and their own bank account. And you have to learn to be a little bit more skeptical and a little bit more shrewd. So I would say I was never the type of person to ever negotiate something. Like if I would go somewhere and let's say I'd get business cards printed, they tell me, oh, it costs $100 for 100 business cards. I'd say, you know what? Like, okay, he's doing his job and he has to get it done. But now I'm finding myself learning, getting second quotes, third quotes, asking around before I make a decision, even on the things that might seem really small, I'm still negotiating because people negotiate with me. It's the same way. And so you kind of have to start doing all of that. And if you don't, that's when your expenses start to pile up. Like sometimes also like the worst you can hear is a no. So I had to get, for example, my compressor or my vacuum replaced. And they also came and fixed my compressor and all of this stuff. And like he wanted to charge me, it was a couple $1,000s to do everything. And I called him up and I was like, hey, look, like I'm a new practice owner. I've only been here 6 months. It was an emergency. I want to build a long-term relationship with you. Is there anything you can do? And he waived like a part of the fee in one of the trips that they made out here. So I think learning how to negotiate and not being so naive are really, really important. Something I had to learn at least.
Yeah, that's awesome. What did you do? This is kind of going backwards a little bit, but during dental school,
Yeah.
because you went out and then just started practicing, did you do anything
Mhm.
differently to get ready for that, or do you think your school just prepared you guys pretty well?
Um, I think our school prepared us pretty well in a couple of different things. So our school they were very, very big on patient communication. We had a lot of classes that at the time seemed so annoying to be in and be a part of, but I feel like they really put an emphasis on the patient experience and patient communication, even in a dental school clinic when people are like, they're coming with the cheapest form of insurance and whatever. They really pushed us to give people the best experience possible. And I think that is the most important skill that you can possibly have coming into the real world because people don't see, it's sad to say, but people don't see what's going on inside their mouth. That's really up to the dentist if they care or not to do a good job. And unfortunately, it's the reality that sometimes you land on somebody that doesn't really care about their work and doesn't really care about the patient. But patients don't see what's actually happening in their mouth, and they're not going to see the effects for usually a period of time until they're not even, or maybe not in the area or something like that. But what they do remember and what they do feel and see is, was I comfortable walking into the office? Was it like a nice environment? Did people greet me by my name? Did the injection hurt? So those are honestly a lot of the things that I focused on in dental school. Um, because I would always hear from people, you know what I hate it? People would always talk about what they hate, right? I hate that it hurts. I hate that it's like annoying that your mouth is open for a long time. I hate the smell when you walk into the office. So those are all the little things that I focused on that when I came out into private practice, into the real world, no matter where I was practicing, I'd give people this experience and I would really receive that feedback and the offices would receive that feedback too. That I had gentle hands or they didn't feel the injection or I made them feel comfortable. I sat and talked with them an extra 5 minutes. All those little things are more important than anything else in the patient experience and being ready to actually handle uh, a live patient.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna keep track of all those things now. Start clinic in like I guess 6 months or something. Because once
Exciting.
you're,
Good luck.
yeah, thanks. Your skills are only gonna be so good when you start, and you only get so much practice. So it's best to control all the other things too.
You know, I do regret that I didn't so I because of COVID also we were a little bit behind with requirements and stuff like that when we were in clinic. So I was always playing catch up. I wish that I better was able to manage everything so that I had more time to invest and kind of really think about extra things beyond what I had to do. And I would have asked more questions clinically, and I would have really picked the brain of a lot of faculty that have private practices or are working elsewhere and are doing different types of dentistry. One, I think that would have led to a really, really good job after dental school, building maybe a really good relationship with somebody that did have a private practice. Um, and two, all those things cost money now. If you want to learn more, you got to go take a seed that costs a couple $1,000s and take a couple of days off work and do all of those things. You want somebody's advice? Some people are friendly on Instagram. Like you'd be surprised how many people I reach out to ask questions, like that I admire their work, whether it's clinically, business, whatever it is, and they answer. But there's also plenty that don't and don't really care and they just send a link to their course. So I wish I better managed everything to have more time to invest in what I'm really getting out of the school experience because it really is 4 years of a free CE course.
Yeah, I was thinking that recently. We had a for fixed, we had a veneer lecture, and
Hmm.
she was like amazing. We were locked in. Me and my friends were saying like she should be going around the country teach like lecturing because she can make so much money doing that.
And
And
she
then
does
now
it.
it kind of made me realize that I should definitely be trying to do as much as I can while I'm here because these people are like world class professors and lecturers. So
100%. So we had Dr. Pascal Monnier. You familiar with him?
no.
So he's kind of the people call him the father of biomimetic dentistry. So adhesive dentistry, he's been doing it for a really, really long time. And our entire curriculum for our first year was about like tooth morphology, and we had to wax up teeth and smile design and facial analysis and all of this stuff. And like as a first year, you don't really care. Like for us, it was art class. But now he used that as like a test run for a curriculum that he sells for so much money now. And he just teach that's all he does is he's not in the school anymore. He just teaches that curriculum. And like I wish I could take it again. So I wish I kept all my notes and all that stuff from there because for me to go now it would cost me, I don't know, $10,000 each course. But there's so much valuable information that you can learn from people at your school. Sometimes you don't even know like how much knowledge they really have.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also because a lot of them aren't flashy. Like you can go to
Yeah.
the endo or extraction course that's in Miami and on the beach and stuff, but you're probably learning the
Yeah.
same things you could learn from your professors like at the local, I don't know, at the dental school or something if you just ask the right
Yeah,
questions.
100%. You just have to be more and think about it like this also. They're there because they like to teach. Like they're not making a living from teaching. So they enjoy answering questions. They enjoy being there for you and teaching you more and going a little bit above and beyond. The people that I saw do that, like they were far ahead clinically than a lot of us that were just trying to get by in the beginning. But But your skills, they come really, really quickly after school. I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times. Like your first month, your first week, you did as many fillings and crowns that you did in dental school, and like you're you catch up quick.
Yeah, that I've heard a lot, and then also just like what you're saying, where mess up as much as you can in dental school because you have the safety net. Versus when you get out, you can get sued or something, or no one will be there to help save you.
Yeah, don't try to mess up,
Yeah,
but
no,
yeah,
definitely.
you definitely
Um,
can.
so when you commented on the TikTok, that's how we got introduced. I wanted to read the 3 points you made when it was just talking about this stuff, and I wanted to
Mhm.
know like your thoughts on each thing. So the first point you made was that it was comes down to communicating with patients to do what's right for them. How did
Mhm.
you get experience with that? Was it just practicing like you were saying in dental school? And how have you seen that make a difference?
So I think it's one, practicing it during dental school, and two, just it's something that I really paid attention to. So like dentistry is a business. The doctors that make money are doctors that diagnose well and produce. So what does it mean to produce in dentistry? It means that patients are doing what you're recommending. It doesn't mean to go and do and recommend things that they don't need or to overtreat or overdiagnose, but if your patients aren't doing the treatments, they're not going through with the treatments that you're recommending to them that are the best for their health, then you're not doing something right. And they're going to either have a problem later down the line and they're going to have to spend more money, or they're going to end up in kind of an annoying situation. And at the end of the day, that kind of falls back. Obviously, it's not our fault because sometimes we're not taught how to communicate that properly, but it's something that's really important that you need to learn how to do. And so I realized this really, really early on. And honestly, I learned this from a dentist that I worked for that I really didn't like, but the way that he was explaining it really made sense that you have to be influential. You have to influence them to do the right thing for the patient. So, because they don't see what's going on in their mouth, they see a crack on a tooth that you've seen 100 times crack and, become either an extraction or maybe a root canal, or, you know, that's on the good side. If not, an extraction and then an implant, but they don't understand that, yeah, that little crack on that large filling that they have, it feels fine right now, but it's going to cost them thousands of dollars down the road if they don't fix it, sometime soon, or do something more preventative. So I also think dentistry is heading in a more preventative route, and the better you are at communicating all those preventative things that you can do, the more one you're going to save your patients in the long term, and the more they're going to be happy with you.
Yeah, 100%. I had Dr. Brad Hughes on, and his favorite book he recommends is Influence by Robert Cialdini, where it's the same things, these principles of influence. And
Hmm.
it is important because people don't like to call it being salesy, but when you're not really competing, or how I've heard it is, you're not really competing with the dentist next door, you're competing with the car dealership and the Apple store. So if you're not convincing them of the urgency, they are going to end up needing that root canal later, and they're going to end up spending their money on something that wouldn't have benefited their health.
Yeah, it's people are scared to talk about the money aspect of dentistry because we're not talking about, we don't get taught that in dental school, that, what is it when you're doing treatment, you make money. And that's the measure of people doing what you're recommending them to do. And so it's kind of like a taboo of like, yeah, don't talk about the money, don't ever push someone to do something. You shouldn't push someone to do something, but you need to explain it to them in a way where they're gonna understand that it's something important that they need to get done, and that there could be consequences if they don't do it now. So you have to learn kind of how to find that balance. Like I'll speak for myself. I'm an extremely conservative dentist. Like when I can do something more conservative, I always do. But it's really important to communicate and give your patients the correct options, for what would be best for them. I treat every single patient. I imagine that it's a family member in the chair, and it's exactly what I would tell my family member. And I tell patients that too. I'm like, you know what? If you were my mom, my dad, or my brother, depending on their age, uh, because I'm not going to tell someone that's 20, if you're my grandpa, but you want to communicate, in a way that they can understand that it's something that it's important that they get done.
Yeah, that's a really good way to think about it.
Also, who wants to spend money on dentistry? Like,
Yeah,
I have a couple feelings. I don't want to spend money on getting them done. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I can't do it on myself. Nobody wants to do it. It's like plumbing. You get a drain clogged. You don't want to have to deal with that. But if you teach people that if you prevent and stop a lot of things from happening in the first place, it's going to be much better down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope that's the way it's starting to go, where it gets more preventative. The second point you said was how to hire, fire, inspire, and build a great team with a good culture. How did you do that for your practice? And what did you learn at your other jobs that made you that taught you what not to do?
So I learned early on in this practice how to hire and how to unfortunately fire. Because one, I had like a working interview of a lady that came in and she seemed like she knew everything. And she was actually during her working interview, like she closed treatment for me, like she was doing great. And she seemed like she was getting along really, really well with everybody. And then towards the end of the day, like she started being a little bit kind of weird and just acting weird, like acting a little bit rude to some of the rest of the team. And so I was like really taken aback by that because one, like how are you doing that on your first day, like in a working interview, like being rude to other people? And she came in, tried to convince me that it's good for us to work together. And I didn't have a front desk at the time, any front desk. Like that's how I took over the practice. There was nobody sitting at the front. So I desperately needed someone also. Um, and anyways, I just told her that it's not gonna work out and she started spamming me with like messages like this is all the things that are wrong that you need to fix and these team members are doing this and that and she was leaving us negative reviews on Google and like this is somebody that came for a working interview
For
so
one day,
you
that's crazy.
yeah you have to be really quick to read a person and very very cautious with letting people into your business. That's one. um Two is you wanna have an inspiring you want to be you want to be a leader that makes people feel something. So there's some leaders that lead by kind of like fear. There's some leaders that lead by example. There's some leaders that are super inspiring to their team. And so the leaders that I've always been um, drawn to and like I admire the most are the ones that are inspiring to their team. So for example, I feel like first of all, when I took over this place, there wasn't really an active presence in the practice. The owner was kind of, she was in and out. She wasn't around so often just due to personal reasons. And so, first of all, just being around and having a positive attitude every single day, and no matter what's happening, never really showing that you're stressed out and showing that everything's going to be fine. I think the way that I communicate and treat patients in one, an ethical way, in a respectful way, in a way that makes them feel comfortable, really inspires my team to do the same. So it's a little bit leading by example, but also giving them something to look forward to. I also like to include my team in, I set a lot of goals for our office. So like daily goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, yearly goals, and I bring them in on the journey of the vision that I have because one, I can't accomplish that vision without them, and two, people are doing a job sometimes that maybe they're not getting paid how much they want to, or maybe they're not doing the job that they want to do. Not everybody wants to be a dental assistant. Not everybody wants to sit at a front desk and answer phone calls. They might have bigger dreams, but if you give, like, I don't know if I want to be a dentist my entire life, but you have to find the things that you enjoy about it. And I think giving people a reason to come to work every single day happy and feeling like they have a purpose, it really, really makes the difference. And I think that's how you build a really good culture. Um,
Yeah.
so like I said, I worked in a couple of different private practices. One of them, he was just like kind of like a father figure to the entire team. He would take us out to lunch all the time. He was super friendly. He was very, very, he was just a really, really nice guy. And so that was one day of being a good leader, and everybody would come to work super happy because he was just really friendly to everyone and made us feel like family.
Yeah.
And even though I wasn't getting paid as much working at other places, I loved working there because he just made me feel good, you know?
Yeah,
So
including them in success is good. But I've also seen it's a surprisingly low number of people that leave a job because of the money. Because if you can get a good culture in, the money isn't really as important for people if they
I
enjoy coming in.
I agree with you 100%, and I also believe in rewarding your team when they do a good job. So one of the reasons we set goals, because when we break those goals, everybody enjoys. And also those little things, you know, if I'm gonna go grab a coffee, then I'll bring coffee for the rest of the team. And or you know, we'll go out to lunch once in a while and or I'll bring something to the office. I think all those little things are little wins that they really, really appreciate and they enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the third point we had on here was spend less than you make and always try to make it more efficient. That seems pretty self-explanatory, but if you wanted to go into maybe experience with that.
I'm a mega nerd for technology and for equipment and tools. And the first thing that I wanted to do when I got in here, also design and stuff like that. Like I have a nice looking practice, especially for a place that's been around for a little while. But the first thing that I wanted to do with any little money that I had was to completely remodel everything and put new equipment. And I missed my electric hand pieces that I had at my old jobs, and I needed a scanner and I wanted a 3D printer and a Ceric and all this stuff. And I had a consultant at the time that was like, "You need to relax and slow down. Your office looks great. Bring in some money first and slowly add on those things." Um, and so I like to buy nice things is my point. And but you have to think about it at the end of the day like a business, and you can't overspend because if you find a way to make more than you spend, you're going to be good. If you're the opposite, you're not going to be around for a long time. And I learned this from I met Dr. John Marashi at it was at the LA Dental Symposium, and like I follow him on Instagram, and so I just stopped him. It was like on the way to the bathroom or something like that, and I was like, "What's the biggest piece of advice you have for me? I'm a new practice owner," and he was like, "Keep your overhead low, keep your expenses low for as long as you can, and just do great dentistry, and everything will work out." And so I've been trying to do that as much as I can, even though it's hard for me and I have to restrain myself. But yeah, so it is pretty self-explanatory. And sorry if I keep yapping a lot for a long
No.
time, um, but yeah, just that's the basics of business. And to be successful is you have to make more money than you spend, and you have to treat people right, and everything works out.
Yeah, it's simple but not easy, I guess, sometimes to manage that because it sounds easy, but I feel like a lot of dentists struggle with it. So hearing it and trying to figure out how you can minimize certain things is definitely useful.
Yeah, I feel like the hardest thing about when you're a practice owner, especially either taking over a practice or doing a startup, is there's so many different little things that you have to fix, and you want to fix all of them, but you can't do all of them at the same time. Like it's not possible. And so the way I'm still getting better at this and I'm still learning how to do it, but prioritizing what are the most important things that I need to focus on. So like this week I have to focus on my follow-up system of how we contact patients again. And then next week, once I fix that, I have to go on to the next thing of, why are we missing phone calls and how can we improve that and little things like that. And I was also on it was his name is Passive Income Dentist on
Oh yeah.
you've seen that guy? I don't know,
Yeah.
or you should honestly I'm sure he'd want to come on because like
I
it'd be great
reached
for
out
him.
to him. We're waiting to hear
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, I think he would do it. Maybe if you get a little bit more traction too, it would help. But I was on one of his like I okay, I'm a hoe for free webinars online. So anything free, like I go do. One because it's hard for me to leave the office and travel because a lot of courses and stuff are on the weekends. And I can't travel on Saturdays and Friday nights. So that rules out like 90% of courses for me. And I also just don't want to spend money on it right now because it's still early in the business and
Yeah.
like I did a bunch this year, so I don't want to do more, but anytime there's free webinars, I always sign up, whether it's business related or dentistry related. And so I signed up to his, and he was explaining a topic about how people are always looking for one thing that's gonna change their practice and make it like amazing. But that doesn't really exist because the way that you do it in any business is there's so many little changes that you need to make, and small wins in each of those compound to make a big difference. So when you break down, let's say, the patient experience or everything that happens in the office, and you fix everything just a little bit every time, then you have big changes that happen and you see the effects a lot better than trying to fix one thing. You know what I mean? Maybe if
Yeah.
I just add on, maybe if I start doing all on X surgery in my office, then we'll be successful. Or maybe if I just close, if I start doing veneers, I'll be successful. But you don't need that. You can do it with bread and butter dentistry. You just have to run it the right way.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that was all I had for you. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. I mean, I'm
This will
sure
be
you
good.
want to buy practice, huh?
Yeah, that's the goal. Hopefully
Good.
sooner out.
Good.
I'm having a guy on next month, and he helps dentists buy and sell practices, but he used to be a dentist. His name's Chris Marshall. I don't know if you've ever
Mhm.
seen him, but
I watched almost all of his YouTube videos
yeah,
before I bought my practice. And like I said, I like doing stuff for free online, and YouTube is an insane
yeah.
resource. And through like watching his videos, I binged watched all of his videos, and that's how I understood what was happening in my practice when I looked at the numbers, how to see how many active patients you have, how to know if you'll be able to take over and be successful. And so I didn't really follow his model exactly because he would have told me I'm an idiot for buying a 3 hour practice. But um, but yeah, you definitely can learn a lot from him. And from
Yeah.
really anybody that puts information out there, you'll learn what's good, what's bad. And yeah, I mean. Do you just want to like run the business, or do you actually like dentistry? Or are
I
you talking
like
about?
dentistry too. It's both things because I shadowed at an implant and denture office, and then I've also shadowed at some cosmetic offices. And it is
Mhm.
just seeing like when you give them the mirror or when you see like a patient cry because they can hear they get implants. I'm like the business side is fun because it's like you can always do something, but same with dentistry. I feel like nothing will compare to that feeling. And you spend so much time and money in school. I definitely want to practice for sure.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, we're doing an all-on-X surgery. I'm doing it with a prosthodontist friend of mine. Um, and like I forgot what her teeth looked like because I didn't see her for a couple of weeks. And then I asked my friend that's planning the case. I was like, he asked me a question about one of her teeth, and I was like, "Can you send me a picture so I can remember?" And he sent it to me, and I was like, the transformation that's about to happen is so, and she's pretty young too. She's in her 50s, and like all of her teeth are super decayed, like underneath the bone. Like it's really bad. I don't even know. It's scary how people can sometimes get to that point, but I'm just like one, it's super, I'm very nervous for it, but also like very excited because I know what kind of transformation it's gonna be, and it's super exciting. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of really cool stuff that you can do, and I'm sure you're realizing there's so many different directions you can go, and
Oh yeah.
just enjoy it, and you'll find what you like.
Yeah, people have just been really negative online about dentistry and they're like, don't go into it. But I'm already 200,000 in debt. I can't really
I
turn around now. So I'm
you
trying to
can't
find
turn
the people
around.
that are really positive about it and talk to everyone. So it's been nice. It's been really fun so far doing this.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, and I'm sure even you'll go through times, I did myself, where I I'm like, you know what, like I can't believe like I chose this as a career. Like you come home exhausted sometimes. You have like, like there's days where everything just goes wrong. I'm sure it's happened to you in like sim lab, like no matter what you do, like nothing works out. You're having a rough day. Out of nowhere, you had like a fight with like, I don't know, like your girlfriend or something. Like you're like, dude, now I have to go tomorrow and be happy and nice to another 20 people when I'm not in the mood for it. And you're working physically and you're tired and like you want to work out and do all these things, but like it's tough. It's a tough job. It really is. But you have to find what you love in it in order to one be able to do it for a long time and to be successful. And so I always urge people like if you're not happy in whatever situation you're in, then like I said, I don't know who I heard it from. It was either Tony Robbins or like Alex Hermosi or like one of those guys. I don't even watch those people all the time, but it just randomly came up. But they were saying a clip of like God like created us to be creators. And so we have to create our reality, whatever we want it to look like. And so if you're not happy in whatever situation you're in, then figure out a way for you to be happy in it. You know?
Yeah. There's like no obligation to stay in the same position, I
Yeah,
guess is
I
what I've heard.
mean,
It's true.
yeah, like the same dude, business owners will drop you like you could work for someone for a year, 2 years, and they'll just send you a text, hey, like just don't come in anymore. And it's like somebody that you had a relationship with. You know how many times I hear that from friends and stuff like that? Or like people are always looking out for themselves, and so you have to do what's really the best thing for you and for your growth and for just for yourself, for your life. So if you're not happy what you're doing, go find something else. Don't screw
Yeah.
people over, but
Right.
do it in a nice way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
100%. All right. Well, thank you again, man. I think this is going to be a really good episode. People get a lot out of it.
for sure.
It's
And
good
if you ever need
perspective hearing from all the
anything,
young dentists.
yeah, I think because the older ones, like a lot of them honestly like made their money a long time ago. And yeah, things are getting more difficult now because overhead's going up and all this stuff. And the ones that haven't been able to adapt, like they might be making less, but most of them that have been around for a long time, like they made their money, they're chilling. They have
Yeah.
investments and all this stuff. It's the young people that are all really scared. And I think just a lot of us that are younger also need to give them a little bit of hope too,
Yeah.
because it's just getting worse and worse. Like online, everyone's like, yeah, like it's the worst job ever. You don't make money. And it's true, it could be really bad, but it could also be really, really, really good.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
good hearing from young practice owners. Appreciate it.